Hi, BJ Hathaway of Augusta Golf Instruction and authorized instructor for the golfing machine. In this video we're going to take a look at the differences between hitting and swinging, one of the very popular subjects in the golfing machine. So let's get started. Okay, hitting versus swinging. What does that mean exactly? I'm sure you probably had that thought before. Well, my idea is there's only two ways to move a golf club. You could push it or you could pull it. So there's your differences between hitting and swinging in a very simplified explanation. Anytime you're putting force on the back side of this golf club in some form, then you're pushing it. So that would be termed hitting. And anytime you're putting force in a linear motion where you're pulling the handle, that'd be swinging it. So you'll see a lot of swings that look different. A lot of people have been termed hitters and swingers. I think that's somewhat open to interpretation myself. But as far as a simplified look at hitting and swinging, we would say that there's definitely more right arm participation in a hit, and it's very much more passive in a swing. So if we looked at a chip shot that was, well, actually I'm not going to tell you. First, I'm going to demonstrate two different types of chip shots. So here we go. Now, can you tell a difference? A lot of people would say, well, it looked pretty similar to me. I'll tell you which the second one was a hit. And the reason it was a hit was because I actively, in my mind and in my feel, used a bending and straightening right arm. So I used that right arm to, in effect, move the shaft in this primary lever assembly, as you've heard that called, which is, by the way, from here to left shoulder. I used the bending and straightening of that elbow to power and move this whole unit, versus the swing. It was more of a whole body motion where I'm pulling the handle through. So I'm not trying to push it at all. I'm trying to stay ahead of this club head with a pulling sensation. So we'll take a look at that from this view. Probably won't look much different. Maybe you'll notice a little difference here. So here's a hit and here's a swing. So again, subtle in how they look. It's really up to the person to decide which one that they think they can use best, this action or an involuntary action of the right elbow. So they say Mr. Kelly preferred hitting over swinging, and that's an interesting story. And you kind of go, well, gee, from what I've heard and what he talked about, hitting was a bigger challenge. So why did he prefer hitting? And I think that was just his own personal philosophy, that he thought it was a bigger challenge, so he wanted to move in that direction. But as far as the average golfer, I think swinging is much easier. It times itself better. And anytime we are trying to push a golf club from any position in the golf swing, it's going to tend to fly out ahead of the hands. And gee, that's the last thing that we want to happen, especially if you have studied the golfing machine. You understand that one of the main factors is we want a flat left wrist and a bent right wrist at impact. And if we're trying to push a golf club, it's going to want to pass your hands pretty quickly and easily, because this golf club is always trying to fly out. It's always trying to get away from you. So if that golf club's always trying to get into a straight line condition, and I'm putting force that helps it get into a straight line condition early, better be really, really talented. And I think it requires a lot of skill that probably, frankly, a lot of us don't have time to develop. So as far as the swinging motion, Our job is to more or less use the pivot to drive and move the handle. Because if we can keep that handle moving, that golf club head won't catch up so quick. If we drop this club, if it's a little bit off balance, the head's going to hit the ground first because it's heavier. So if this end is in effect heavier than this end, and I put any effort into straightening this, I'm in big trouble because it wants to get into a straight line anyway. So my job and your job is to keep the handle moving. So that requires some activation of the pivot. Many times people get in trouble because they're trying to throw the club into a straight line early. So our job for a swinger is to use the pivot to drag the handle through. And the hitter would be trying to time this motion of when does the right arm straighten. So for a hitter, he's got to make sure his right shoulder moves. By the way, anytime your right shoulder stops moving, you're going to tend to get into a straight line too quick. So for the hitter, he's got to time the active participation of the right elbow bending and get that right shoulder really moving, and then it can straighten. And the swinger's just trying to use the pivot to keep that handle moving. So remember, this golf club loves to get into a straight line. Most of us are trying to make it get there early. And so for an easier way to do this, I think swinging is the better way for a lot of people. And you say, well, gee, what does a swing look like? And it doesn't get much easier to look at than this. So if we look at a piece of rope, when we swing it, what end am I swinging? I'm swinging this end, right? If I do this, that's a throw. Well, that would be a version of a hit, right? Well, it doesn't want to work. So we've got to get the pivot to fire the arms, and the arms pull the rope, and the rope gets into a straight line. So for short game, I would say you're welcome to try both. You should try both and experiment. But the key for you guys is going to be to figure out if you can hit without flip. So remember, this is active. I'm actively straightening out the right elbow. As long as I don't flip it, I'm okay. And if I want to try swinging, I'm going to feel like I may feel a little pivot in a chip shot, may not, don't have to. As long as I keep the handle moving, you'll see I'm not doing anything in particular with the right elbow. I am just literally doing this. I'm pulling this handle. So a swinging style chip. I like that one a lot. So if you got any questions about what you've seen on this video, please post them in the comments section on the YouTube page. And we'd love to have you join us on the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/AugustaGolf. And we thank you for watching, and let us know if we can help you.